And we are joined by the one and only, the incomparable Alethia Thomas, graduate of Madison Central High School, graduate of Southern University in Baton Rouge, which we'll talk about, and current partner with Horne. And we are recording this for our friends at Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and I've got a room full here with me of Velma Jackson. And we are also recording this for our YouTube channel. So thanks so much for joining us. I know you've had an incredible journey to your current position, and we're just recognized as a Mississippi leading businesswoman that you got the award just about a month ago. So that was a great accomplishment as well, and well deserved. So, and like I said, we've talked briefly about what all Horne does, all the professional services they provide to businesses. And we're in the business administration career cluster, and that's a lot of what you deal with. But I'll let you tell us how you got there, because we had just talked about you went to Southern University, got a degree in electrical engineering, and never used it. So quite the educational path. You've taken on an amazing journey, which you've done some amazing things and been recognized for that. So we'll let you just tell us about how you got there. I know we started together at Rosa Scott and then at Madison Central, and you've gone a lot of places since then.
All right. Well, thank you all for having me, and good morning. As Greg said, I'm Alethia Thomas, Madison Central grad. After my graduation, after graduating from Madison Central, I actually attended Mississippi State University. And I was at Mississippi State for about 2.5 years. My freshman year, I did great academically. My sophomore and going into my junior year, my mother said, "You need to figure it out or you're bringing your butt home." I did not have the study skills and study habits that I needed to pursue my engineering degree. And so my stepdad stepped in because he's a little more patient than my mom. And he said, well, let's explore some different avenues. You know, Mississippi State is not the only school offering engineering degrees. Have you thought about HBCU? And I hadn't. All I knew was Jackson State. And at that time, Jackson State did not have an engineering program. They do now, but they did not at that time. And so my stepdad had some contacts at Southern University in Baton Rouge. And so I transferred schools. It was a very big difference, but I wouldn't change it for the world. It was very eye-opening for me to be surrounded by so many just smart and educated Black people. It was definitely a difference. The networking was different for me, and not knocking my Mississippi State Bulldog folks, because I got a lot of colleagues that are Mississippi State graduates, but I'm just talking about my experience as an individual. It was drastically different. Shortly after Southern University, we were impacted by Hurricane Katrina. And so I was living at home, still trying to figure it out, as most of us do after we graduate from college. We don't have a clue, some of us, of what's next for us. And so my parents took on about 12 to 13 feet of water in their home. And so they were displaced from Katrina. And my mom was like, okay, sweetheart, you got to figure it out, because we have to deal with the aftermath of Katrina. And so I actually responded to a newspaper ad for FEMA to help with the Katrina Recovery, which is really what started my career. I worked for FEMA for about 2 years, where we were assisting people that were impacted by Katrina that were displaced with providing them mobile homes and travel trailers. I don't know if you guys probably too young for that. But we had a lot of people living in travel trailers after Katrina. And then shortly after, I just put my resume out on Monster, I think at that time, just to see, what kind of hits I would get. And that's when I stepped into the consultant world in disaster recovery. So I started with Horne, and I see you guys have done a little research, but I am a partner at Horne, and what that means is that I have ownership in the company with about 35 other partners. And within Horne, we have different practice groups. And I am in government services, and in my government service practice group, I am partners with 7 other partners. What we do in government services, I think the best way I can describe it is we help state and local government figure out what to do with the federal dollars they receive. And so when I first started with Horne, so there's 3 ways you can do that. Let me back up. So there's 3 ways you can do that. We can either assist states and local government with deciding what they're going to do with the federal dollars that they receive. We can either implement the programs that they decided to design with the federal dollars, or we can administer the programs. And when we say administer, there's a lot of red tape and rules and regulations that come when states receive federal dollars. And so we help them stay in compliance and tell them what they can and cannot do with the money. After Katrina, I joined, after FEMA, I joined Horne, and we were on the implementation side. So I actually started as a case manager. And what we were doing there was helping homeowners who were impacted by Katrina, where they either didn't have insurance or their insurance did not cover all of the damages that were impacted by Katrina, or the insurance company found a loophole and figured out how they did not have to pay them for the damages. And so the state of Mississippi was providing homeowners with additional federal funds to help repair their homes. And so I was a case manager. And as my role as a case manager, I was really determining eligibility, seeing if homeowners were eligible for the program, and that just required collecting documentation and reviewing them, and making sure they fell within the policies and guidelines for the program. When I was doing that, I was in Gulfport, Mississippi. Shortly after, we had an opportunity in the Houston, Texas area, in Galveston specifically, where they were also impacted by a hurricane. So I relocated to Houston and worked in Galveston, Texas, where there I became, I guess you would say, a lead over other case managers. It was the first time I ever led a staff. It was probably a team of like 4 or 5. And then after that, we had an opportunity in New York where they were impacted by Hurricane Superstorm Sandy. So I traveled back and forth because this Southern girl was afraid of New York. But I also had a good friend, another classmate of ours, Adrienne Williams, who resides.
So she spoke last year. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, she was in New York. She was played a major role in my transition that I could make it in New York. And so I relocated to New York because the travel was getting to be a bit too much, trying to serve our client there as well as travel back and forth. So I moved out to Long Island. And from there, I mean, I just had so many different opportunities to lead different programs that, again, helped homeowners and landlords and tenants who were impacted by Superstorm Sandy. So that's my story. But then after New York, we also took on work in Puerto Rico, and prayers to Puerto Rico right now for the many people that have been impacted by this recent storm. But I went to Puerto Rico for a while, and then I relocated to U.S. Virgin Islands, who was also impacted by a hurricane. And so I went to U.S. Virgin Islands. We still have a team there where we are, again, helping homeowners that have been impacted by the storm and haven't been able to get repairs done to their home. And so that's my travel. Within all of that, I've been with Horne for 11 years. Again, started as a case manager. I'm now a partner. I will say that what helped me get there, not only the amazing support that I have within Horne, my many partners that I say saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at the time. I didn't even know what a partner was, honestly, you guys, when I started with the company. I just knew that I had the opportunity to serve, to help people, and make a career out of it. Part of my growth with the company was really about being a fierce owner. And what fierce ownership means to me is really owning your career, is getting up every day and going above and beyond what's being asked of you. It's not having that attitude of, it's not my job, or they not paying me to do that. I cringe when I hear people say that. So being a fierce owner is going above and beyond, is understanding the why. It's not just doing it because that's what they told you to do. It's really understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it.
And being able to take initiative as well.
Absolutely.
Understanding the business and knowing what needs to be done before it's asked.
Absolutely. And then owning it, dress for success, dress for what the position and the career that you want, not the role that you're currently in, and being a leader. And so that was, and then also having mentors and sponsors. Mentorship comes in all shape, forms, and sizes. It can be, at your job. It could be outside. You can have more than one mentor. I've had several to kind of help me navigate my career and my growth.
Yeah, and on top of all that, not only were you promoted to partner, you were the first Black partner in the history of the company.
Yes, I am. And I'm also serving as chair of the Belonging at Horne committee, where we really focus on creating opportunity and making sure that everyone has equal opportunity within our firm.
Yeah, and we had just talked about that as well before we got online, is about, even though we were fortunate enough to go to a school like Madison Central, which is more diverse than a lot of schools in the state. But when I went, I went to LSU, and you went to Southern in the same city. That was the first time in my life I ever dealt with somebody that was not from the United States.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
he was from Sweden, and English was not his first language. He was new to the culture, but we had to work together. And I think that's a very, very important part of any corporate setting, is that you're going to have to be able to work with people. You got to work with people of different religions. You got to work with people that may be handicapped. You got to work with people of different genders, different races, different orientations. It is such a vital part, because as you know, as somebody that's been a manager, because it's not just about managing the business, it's about managing people.
Absolutely.
So you have to be able to work across that. You ain't got to be buddies with them, but in order to be a successful business and to be a successful employee or a successful manager, that is such a vital part of any business's success.
Yeah, absolutely. And just making people feel welcome. You have to make sure that you're not being judgmental, and really understanding and seeing things from others' perspective. And in order to be able to do that, I think it's very, very important to have people around you that are not exactly like you. That definitely has helped, and it definitely has helped grow our firm as well, with having different diversity.
Yeah, and you've been on a lot of videos that the company has put out, really promoting that and making it a huge initiative for Horne, and which is, on top of your business things, you show that you're great in front of a camera as well. So, we don't do it so much in this class, but in other classes, these kids want to get so mad at me when I make them present things like I'm trying to be mean. But how important, and you talked about looking the part and dressing for success. It's not about being a public speaker, because obviously I've spoken in front of 2,000 people, so I'm not really nervous in that aspect. But these kids don't understand. It's not about being a public speaker. It's being a communicator, being able to sell yourself, being able to sell the company, sell the product, sell the culture. So how important is that to be able to be confident speaking to a client or to a boss or to an employee?
Yeah, I mean, if you want people to listen to you, if you have something that you're trying to sell, if you have a new process or a new policy that you're trying to present, if you have a better way of doing something, just in every day of what your responsibility is, you have to be able to present that. And in order to present that, you have to have the confidence. My uncle, rest his soul, used to always say, if you say it with confidence, they don't know that you don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, definitely. And it takes time, it takes practice. So I would just say start now, because you can know all of the information, but if you're not presenting that information with confidence, with head held high, shoulders back, people have a tendency not to listen.
Yeah, and also it's not just for your clients; it's for your for people you work with, because
Absolutely.
the more than anything else in business, especially in a corporate setting, you've got to be able to communicate, whether it be, you can't write an email like you text. You can't, especially if you have people of different backgrounds of everybody at the table, you're going to have to be able to speak in a way everybody can understand. And that goes for anybody. It will go for me or you or anybody. And and the communication aspect of business is just beyond. If nothing else that anybody understands out of this is that is probably the most vital part. You obviously you have you got to know the business. You got to know what you got to know the policies. But being able to communicate that is vital, because a miscommunication can cost millions of dollars.
Oh, absolutely. And it can cost employees. A majority of the issues that I have encountered with team members, it all boils down to communication. You have to speak in a way that I'm very mindful of making sure that I'm not speaking in a way that makes someone defensive. And really thinking about, if someone were to say it to me, how would I take it? How would I interpret it? So yeah, you're absolutely right on the communication.
Yeah, and before I get to some of these questions, and I got some good ones from the students, I do want to talk about you. I do want to talk about. Hold on one second. I do want to talk about, you did go to a PWI and a HBCU, and you also just graduated from Belhaven as well with a master's. So for anybody watching that's thinking about Mississippi State and then thinking about the HBCUs, because like you said, a lot of kids aren't aware that, we know Jackson State and Alcorn, but there are some other great HBCUs that aren't that far away. And then if somebody wants to get it online, I know you did the Belhaven thing online. So yeah. Talk about all those experiences, because I think a lot of kids don't understand what's the culture of PWI, the culture at HBCU, and that you can still work full time and get a degree doing the online thing at a school like Belhaven.
Yeah. For me, my Mississippi State experience is when I was doing the most partying in school, but the culture there where I had personally where I struggled was really tapping into the network at Mississippi State. I wasn't, and when you're to be successful in anything, you really have to tap into your network and grow your network. And so at Mississippi State, I struggled with getting to know the people in my classroom, getting to form relationships, to tap into those study groups at Mississippi State. So at my experience at the HBCU, it was just much easier. The students were more welcoming for me. I mean, I remember that it's hard coming in as a transfer student too at a university. And so I remember sitting in class and just everyone in class was so welcoming and telling me all about the different professors. The professors were very welcoming. I had a great one-on-one relationships with those different with the different professors. And so that experience, that's for me personally what made my experience much different. Now I will say, my HBCU wasn't as organized as my Mississippi State Bulldogs when it came to things like registering for class. I had to go stand in line. I had never done that before at Mississippi State. So we do have, and I think Southern has fixed that. But there was some differences there, but it really was just the culture and the network that made a difference for me.
Yeah, and such a beautiful campus as well, right on the Mississippi River in Baton Rouge. I mean, one of the most beautiful campuses anybody would ever see.
Yeah. Another beautiful HBCU, just speaking about, just throwing some out there that's not just Jackson State and Valley and Alcorn. Texas Southern is also a beautiful campus right there in Houston, Texas. My godson is a freshman there, and he's doing wonderful things, and his network is out of the world at Texas Southern as well. So definitely take a look. I have lots of friends that have attended different HBCUs outside of Mississippi as well.
Yeah, and before you get to the Belhaven thing, I think it's important to note also, we went to a big high school, and unfortunately here at Belma Jackson, we're a small school, but we went to a big high school at Madison Central. But still, that does not prepare you for the overwhelming of the size of the classes at a school like Mississippi State. And I think that's important. You mentioned that. It is very easy to get lost in the shuffle. Again, it goes back to initiative. You can be successful at Mississippi State because they have some great programs, but you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone, have that business initiative, have that business mindset to where you're going to put yourself in a position to where you can be noticed and where you can get the networking you need.
Absolutely.
Now, and then also, we wanted to hear about your online experience at Belhaven, because you worked full time while you were getting a master's.
Yes, and there were plenty of days that I asked myself, why did I do this? But that was just a personal goal of mine. It's just something that I wanted to accomplish, and I set out to do it. It was some late nights, but the Belhaven online program, I mean, again, the professors really understand that we're all working full time, and also going to school, and so they are very flexible, very understanding in working with you. But yeah, it definitely was a challenge. It definitely was a challenge. So hats off to everyone that goes to school and work.
And I think that's important, because Belhaven has one of the top online programs in the South. So if somebody's not wanting to do the traditional college route, Belhaven is a good option for that, because that online program has just gotten rave reviews all over the country about how they will work with schedules, but you can still get the knowledge and degree you need. So very, very interesting college path that you took. But I think all three of those institutions can offer a lot of great things. But I think it's also important to remember, and again, back to the HBCU, historically Black does not mean exclusively Black, because there are. Well, Southern University has a law school, which is extremely diverse. And then the international population at Southern University just cannot be measured. They have students from all over the world. So just because, I hear kids say all the time, well, I don't want to go to a Black school. Well, it may be majority Black, but it's definitely not all Black. There's a plethora of diversity at Southern University, Jackson State, and all the other HBCUs. But I do have some questions I want to get to from the students, and these are all ninth graders. This first one is Donovan Smith, and he asked, what was the biggest thing that you gained to help you be successful?
Ooh, that's a great question, Donovan. The biggest thing that I've gained, I would say being fearless. As I talked about my career path, I moved to a lot of different places. And although you may know one or two people, in those areas, I really had to step out on faith, and be fearless and understand that, and keep reminding myself that if it doesn't work, home is always there. Mississippi is not going anywhere. And so that's what I would say, Donovan, is to be fearless. There is nothing too big that you can't conquer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right here from the same area. And then whenever we talk about the things that we didn't have in high school that they have now, it's amazing, just making the most of resources. Like, people that I went to, and everybody says, Madison Central gets everything. We went to Madison Central. Did we ever get an ACT for free during the school day? These kids don't know how good they have it. Now this is London Lott, and she asked, what skills did you learn in college that helped you be successful in your career?
For me, it was analytical. My analytical skills is what has helped me in my career. Being a thinker, being a problem solver, is definitely, again, we're helping states and local government. We say all the time, solve their biggest problems. So being creative and thinking outside the box. On how you get to a solution. It may not be from point A to B in a straight line. You may have to go A to Z and back to B, but there's a way to get there. And so again, thinking outside the box and being a problem solver.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know for anybody interested in engineering. Engineering is not engines. Engineers are problem solvers. It's one of the fastest growing fields in America. And yeah, an engineering degree can get you pretty much in any field. And you're a perfect example of that, because businesses like people that can solve problems. And the engineering design process, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, it even has steps in it where you try it and then you fix it, because they're not expecting to get it right the first time. And that's just so vital in any area of business. This is Kaylee Luckett. She's one of our cheerleaders. And she asked, how do you feel that getting involved in the disasters gave you more exposure to your world and helps you in your career?
Yeah. So with the disasters, as you guys can see, disasters happen all over the world. And so that introduced me to different cultures. and having different life experiences. Living in New York is much different than living in Texas. The culture is different. Living in U.S. Virgin Islands, the culture is very different.
The
And
weather is
so,
very different.
yes, and the beaches are beautiful, and you don't need a passport to go.
Yep.
Just FYI. But yeah, that's what I would say. It's just I've been able to meet so many different people from different backgrounds, from different religions. I've learned so much from living in those different areas.
Yep. This is Kanaja Walker, also one of our cheerleaders, and this is a great question. She asked, "How do you deal with busy and stressful business periods?"
Ooh, probably not the best way that I should for me, but I've tried to get better. One, recognizing my stress symptoms and trying to curb it ahead of time and just being more in tune. And then I also enjoy baking. And I enjoy cycling. I go to spin class. Those are two things that I can do that I have to concentrate on what I'm doing, and I have to clear my mind, and they are very good stress relievers for me.
Yeah, and this is a hardworking community, and a lot of these families, they work so hard, and I just think, and you got to make time to relax sometimes. It's all about time management, not only in business but in your personal life. Um, you know, because you can stress yourself out to where you need to go to the hospital. Unfortunately, some people do that, and it's a tough balance to make. But that's great that you do that. Now this is uh, Jemiah Carson, and she asked, when you're presenting when you're presenting to a client, what is the most important thing to remember?
Um, to be an active listener. And so to be an active listener means that you're looking at body language, you're listening for what they're not saying. Oftentimes, when clients are speaking, they're asking you questions. What they're asking you is really not the question that they're trying to get to. And reading the room, when you're speaking and people start to shift, or they lean in when you're saying something in particular. Those are the things that I would say when presenting, is to learn how to be an active listener.
Well, and then, anytime you're dealing with business, of any sort, you have to know what the client wants, whether you're doing their hair, fixing their car, or dealing with a contract. You have to know exactly what they want, because again, if it's wrong, you're not going to have the contract anymore. So that's a great point. Well, we just got a couple more that I have, one funny and one serious.
Okay.
And we thank you so much for making time for us today. But the first one, these kids love making fun of me, and I don't blame them. But we've known each other almost 30 years now, which is amazing that we're getting this old. But and I asked all my high school classmates that joined us the same thing. Have I not always been the goofiest person from then to where I am now?
Yes, you have. Nothing has changed.
Well, I appreciate it. If nothing else, you can say I've been consistent as far as being goofy since I was 12 years old. So I'm glad they'll know they're not the only ones that think that. So I appreciate that. But before we go, and I know you took some time out of your busy schedule to meet with us today. For anybody watching this with us now or later, you were sitting right here in the same school district, Madison Central. I've got Vilma Jackson here with me now, but you grew up here. You grew up as a female, as a double minority, a female, black female in a corporate setting, but yet you've gone up to become a partner in a company that has presence all over the world. So it can be done, but there's going to be obstacles that everybody faces, especially our females and especially our black females, and we'll have some Hispanic females and Asian females that watch this later as well. So what are, those obstacles? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when those obstacles are going to be faced. So what can they do now to overcome those same things and become as successful as you?
That's a great question. It goes back to having a network and having mentors. I couldn't have done it without. There were a lot of days that I wanted to quit. A lot of days I wanted to quit. And having that sounding board. So I would start now with your mentors, people that have already accomplished where you're trying to go, so you can have them along that journey with you. We are strong, we are women, so we are strong, but understanding that it's not meant for you to do it alone. And so definitely carry people on the journey with you.
Yeah, and also before we go, I still think it's the craziest thing in the world that another partner at Horne is my cousin Melissa Poole. So it's amazing how small the world is, because literally we've I remember when she was born, and our dads are brothers, so that's just crazy how small the world is to that you and her husband Justin do a great job up there with you guys at Horne as well. But that's just crazy. You never know, again, your network, you never know who you're going to deal with. But that's just so cool and so awesome. But again, Alethia Thomas, Madison Central graduate, class of '99, even though you skipped and could have been 2000, class of '99. Thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure. You're just doing so many amazing things. You're such an inspiration to so many young people.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good luck to you all.
All right. And I will see you soon.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye-bye.